already the Democrats are trying to act like that this isn't the same photo. That is of his hand. It is. He was getting them erased. Again, I've watched all the documentaries, the long ones on CCOT, where people they're not just interviewing in CCOT, they're interviewing the community. They follow a gang member that goes into another country fleeing because he doesn't want to face his consequences, and they go with him to get tats removed. Yeah. And again, the biggest nonprofit organization here in America that does the most worldwide is Homeboy Industries. So, I just put up a video a little bit about that. So they get these removed because it gives them away. So I'm going to show, let's zoom in on this one first. So clearly you can see MS13, okay? So when I show you the next picture that I had showed earlier, like in the day, that was from when he met Van Hollen, you could tell that he's had them removed. Because this one, they look for like a 5 studded crown. That's one of the things. You can go on DHS or FBI and they have all the pictures up that they look for. Okay, so when I saw this picture, you can tell he's had them erased. So I had said earlier today, this looked like what was a 5 studded crown, which is something they look for. But you can, if I'll go back to the older picture. So this one that Trump's holding up is an older photo. He hadn't been having them removed yet. So that's why they don't look the same. But here's even more proof that it's the same hand. It is Garcia. And it's based on this photo. I'm going to zoom in to this hand here, okay? Because that's the hand. You can see it. He was probably getting them removed, but you can see, you could look, you could see the skull right here on the pinky. And you could see that one. But again, for people saying, well, it looks different. Yeah, because he was having them removed. That's what they do because it gives them away. Especially when El Salvador's President Bukele came in, because he was going after all of this. So they started fleeing. They were look, it was a narco state. The MS-13 was controlling the country. That's why children couldn't go to school. They couldn't even play outside. It was that horrendous. So when President Bukele came in, he started rounding them up. Yeah. That's why his approval rating is 85%. So when that started happening, when did this start? Was it 2000? And it's interesting because I was looking up USAID, and even though they were funding wanting to rehabilitate gangs in El Salvador. So it's interesting that Trump shut that shit down right away. Now, it doesn't say they were directly funding MS-13, but that's what they were working with there, was trying to rehabilitate gang members. But it wasn't going very well. It was really... And look, listen, that's why I put the video up. That's what led me to start looking into who's doing the tat removals. Like, who's doing them, who's paying for them. What's the money behind it? And that's how I came upon Homeboy Industries. They're the ones that do the most of them, and they do them for free. So that's tied to the Jesuits, the Catholic Church, and in L.A. But I've seen the Catholics, they control, and the Jesuit Catholics control much of the DCFS system in Illinois, especially for kids, like adolescents that I took care of in the psych system, like in the psychiatric hospital. Yeah, they don't give a shit about these kids, really. The church, the Catholic Church and the Jesuits should not be allowed to be around children. I mean, the ones that are in charge of the state wards. So they bring this on the heels that we're helping youth. Yeah, no, that's always what the charity brings it on. That's what USAID was all about. So I would imagine, that's probably where he was getting his. I would bet there's a paper trail showing who was doing his tats, probably Homeboy Industries, but there's no proof to that. But this is his hand. So you could see it's the same hand as this, and this is the most, this is the one from when somebody, zoomed in on it, when he had his hand, his hand down, and you can clearly see he was totally having them erased or removed. You could see this, like the smiley face there, and then the skull there, and you see how where the M and S and it's all red there. This is clearly probably an early photo before he started having them removed. So again, you could see there, and you could see the skull here. And you could see the very first thing he was getting rid of course, was the MS-13. And this is the photo of him holding the baby. And you can see, there's that, you could clearly see that one, and you can see the skull there. But his wife married him when he was in jail, okay? So you could see the first thing he had removed was that it looks like the MS-13. When I watch these documentaries, the reason this was so crucial for them to get these tats removed is because they said that's how they identify us. So for the Democrats to carry on about this anymore is ridiculous. I would imagine this picture that was before he had anything being removed, and probably that was from El Salvador. And if you look at the top, it's at MS-13. That's his name. So the Democrats need to stop interfering with this man keeping the country safe. If you don't stop, then you need to be deemed as a terrorist organization. Because this all of these tats, every single one of them, in the CCOT documentary, they tell you this. FBI tells you this. DHS. Like, I don't give a shit what the Democrats la land they want to live in, okay? All of these people can't be wrong about these tattoos, okay? And they will all tell you that for each one they get, it's because they've killed somebody. And Garcia, here's the worst part. The Democrats are such an embarrassment, the way they've behaved. But they have no shame, so they don't care. They're just on their revolutionary track to destroy Americans. Legal Americans. They're sick. But he was a high-ranking MS-13. He was. And I've tried there's not a lot of photos of him out there. There's some, though. It seems like they doctor it. Because on some photos, it looks like he's had, because usually the first thing they start getting removed is the stuff on the face. The stuff that's, a clear, obvious sign. The other thing they do, in El Salvador, they will stop young people on the street. Not so much, but in the beginning they were having them lift their shirts and everything and lift their hat. They wanted to see. That's how they've been identifying them. Because even the gang tells you that there's a meaning to all of these. So law enforcement knows what these are. And it means they've killed somebody. So the Democrats that have lobbied about his safety, he's killed likely in the double digits. That's why he's an abusive person. And yet the Democrats fought to get a dangerous criminal like this back in our country. So they need to stop, or somebody needs to go to court and get them deemed as a terrorist organization. Seriously. Because just think, if they would have been successful getting this guy back here, that would have put everyone in danger. They don't care, though. That's the reason they wanted the open borders and all of these criminals to come in here. They wanted Americans to get killed.